the night.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, creatures of all ages, my name is Adam Simmons, and this is the Creatures of the Night. Joining me, as always, we say always, but it's loosely scheduled, and nobody ever really wants to do it, but here we are. With me, as always, as we do these shows, the one, the only, on the ones and twos, our great, fantastic producer and his great hair, Christian Wutzke, formerly of the #NoOffense show. How you doing, bud?
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm swell.
Glad to be here. Glad to get educated on some Mr. Cool Ice lore this evening.
Yeah. So we've changed the subject of the episode from Antarctica specifically to Mr. Cool Ice. And the guy that's going to help us with that lore is the one, the only, Jason motherfucking Almy. Almy, what's cooking, brother?
What up, man? I got one thing on the brain and one thing only. And before 5 minutes ago, it was Antarctica. And now it's Mr. Cool Ice. Thomas Steinberger, what have you been up to for the last 15 years, dog? I need to hear everything. And if you say hanging out underneath the ice in Antarctica with an Adolf Hitler clone, that's what the fuck I'm here to talk about tonight.
Well, here's the thing. We have photographic evidence that he is a Nazi.
100%.
So we are going to get into why and how the Nazis went to Antarctica and for what reason. But we are burying the lead. Before that, I would like to thank the Inner Circle Podcast Network and our sponsors. Chris, can you tell me a little bit about hemp bombs?
Sure, Adam. Hemp bombs are specifically formulated to provide consumers with a quality product at an affordable price. The many benefits of hemp bombs include reduced anxiety, increased sense of relaxation, reduction of aches and pains, mood enhancement, deeper and more restful sleep. Hemp bombs come in a wide variety of different products, including oils, gummies, suckers, vapes, and even products for your pet. Use code CREATURES at hempbombs.com. Save 20% on your entire order. High quality CBD at an affordable price. Do it.
Yeah. There's no way Almy would have been able to do that, dude. There's just not.
Nope.
I hate to tell you, but I know that he doesn't.
Any of the reads in writing, I'll do them. I'll transcribe what he just said. Don't even send it to me. Don't even send it to me. I'll do it. I'll do it next time. Next episode, I'm doing both ad reads.
You want to do the on it read?
Absolutely not. Next week, yeah. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. On it. ONNIT.com. Use code CREATURES. Buy a fucking kettlebell. Buy some Alpha Brain. Alpha Brain is great. I like drinking Alpha Brain. Look what I'm doing right now. I drink Alpha Brain. It helps me to never shut the fuck up. It's awesome stuff. Onnit.com. ONNIT.com. Use code CREATURES at checkout. You're going to save some money. Order a kettlebell. Swing that shit around your house.
That's legit as good as what Adam would have done. So kudos.
Hey, bro.
He would have said spirulina a few times. He would have said cordyceps mushrooms a lot.
Yeah, cordyceps in them.
Ashwagandha ad nauseum.
Ashwagandha.
He would have got to the same place.
L-theanine. Can I get
Wakanda?
Nootropics? Something? Anything?
Ashwagandha forever.
Fucking Onnit was founded by T'Challa and them.
This is borderline treading into some racist territories, boys. So that being said, let's talk about some Nazis on ice, motherfucker.
Hell yeah.
That is a professional transition. I didn't want to open with the Nazis, but here we are. Mr. Cool Ice supports the Fourth Reich, and he's got a great haircut. So Antarctica.
Antarctica.
Right?
I learned a lot about Antarctica just this last couple of days.
Yeah, same.
I think, honestly, Antarctica is rocketing up my list of favorite conspiracy-related topics because, holy shit, Antarctica there's so much potential. It's like Area 51 on steroids. Right. You know, you think the government's doing some stuff. There might be aliens involved. There's secret tech nobody knows about. If you go there, they fucking whack you and you go missing. No one ever hears from you again. Yeah, that's one little piece of New Mexico called Area 51. Or it's an entire fucking continent that's 50% bigger than the United States. That's one USA plus half of another USA put together into the size of a fucking continent that it's just Area 51. It's just a giant fucking
Meanwhile, it's covered it's covered in 3 meters of ice thick, a sheet over top of it, but it wasn't always. At one point, it was a fucking thriving jungle, right? Marsupials came from Antarctica. What does that do? Does that blow your Australian mind? Fuck you. Stop following me on Twitter. 1.5 times the size of the continental United States.
Yeah.
90% of the fresh water on the planet, and somewhere around 60% of the fresh water, or 90% of the frozen fresh water and 60% of all fresh water on Earth is Antarctica.
I just feel like Antarctica is the weirdest things. Nobody ever fucking talks about it. Nobody ever fucking thinks about it. Like,
we dabbled into it a little bit when David Weiss was on the episode. We were talking about the big ice wall.
We talked about it when Bobby Light was here too.
Correct. So we've kind of like we've dipped our toe in the frozen water, if you will.
I mean, even before Creatures, when I was just a young man, when I was going to like middle school and shit, they didn't teach us anything about Antarctica. I didn't even know what Antarctica was until a year and a half ago. I had to look it up. I had to Google it. And then Google returned no responses. They wouldn't let me look at the maps, and I thought something was fishy.
Well, we've had discussions ad nauseum, privately and publicly, about things like Operation High Jump, and that's the kind of stuff that gets Chris's gears going. So to introduce him into this conversation before me, all jacked up on L-theanine and alpha brain nootropics, and Almy, all jacked up on photos of himself in a mirror, take over the rest of this episode talking about Mr. Cool Ice. Chris, can you please let us know what Operation High Jump was and why we should worry about it?
I guess the easiest way to say that would be that's the expedition by Admiral Byrd to in those days, I guess, would it be to explore the world, or to like basically like to chart the entire globe, or, you know, in quotes,
right?
Hypothetically,
he was like an adventurer, right? He is like one of those Indiana Jones, like Nathan Drake types, right? He was going around. He was trying to
lay pipe on every continent,
right? He was like a pilot or something along those lines, if I'm not mistaken.
He was a badass motherfucker. Did you watch that interview with him from like
a little bit, yeah.
Like it was like 12 minutes long. Man, he was a fucking badass. I bet if they made a movie of his life, like they could get old man Clint Eastwood, like Get Off My Lawn, Clint Eastwood, to play him, and it would be like perfect. It would be a
let me give you a little bit of context. Richard Byrd was a rear admiral in the American Navy, just to let everybody out there know who this guy is. He was an American naval officer, and he was a famous explorer. Like he said, he got the Medal of Honor, which is the highest honor for valor given by the United States. And he was a pioneering aviator. He was a polar explorer. So he went and explored the top and the bottom of the planet. He was trying to like Eiffel Tower the planet. He was like, I'm interested in the front end, and I'm interested in the back end, and I'm going to go into both. And so he did some wild shit. He only lived to be 60, was 66, 68. Must be 68. I don't know, but he was so busy adventuring. You know, he got like CTE and froze his fucking nuts off and shit like that. I mean, you knew a guy like him spends all that time adventuring, wasn't going to live long.
Either that, or he came back from lands unknown with fantastical tales of new lands and extra people, and then got fucking whacked off.
Let me show a picture of him so that the folks watching the live stream will have a little enhanced value here. This is the man right here. That's a younger photo of him. He's 1928, looking handsome, looking like he's going to slang dick in every corner of the world. If there's a corner of the world, he's going to fuck it.
Why was his middle name Evelyn, dude?
I don't know. It's pretty badass. Actually, Evelyn used to be a dude's name, like way back in the day. And yeah, so like there's a Rothschild. This is a whole other episode of Creatures. There's a living Rothschild today named Evelyn.
Is that who you named your child after? You fucking
absolutely. I'm a fucking op. Of course I did. So this guy, I mean, he's World War I, World War II, Medal of Honor, Navy Cross. I mean, this guy's done everything. This guy's done everything. He's done some legit shit. So I just wanted to share his photograph with everybody so that you could.
So Chris, this dude wants to go to Antarctica, right? For what? He brings warships. He brings what? 13 warships or some shit.
A whole ass fleet. And basically discovers land past Antarctica. If like, I have problems with that because it basically describes things on a flat plane versus like our globe model, or how we typically think about the world, because he says he finds lands past Antarctica and it's lush and green and there's people and there's resources, and he's explaining all this on television. And I thought that was really interesting, that it was like a CBS nightly news type scenario back in the 40s that he's just sitting there dropping all these truth bombs on. And nowadays you got to listen to three idiots like us on YouTube.
Well, yeah, I mean, here we are. The task force that he had included Task Force 68 was the name of the crew. It included 4,700 men, 13 ships, and 33 aircrafts to go to what is considered a deserted island of ice. The Operation High Jump, went from the 26th of August, 1946, and ended in late February of 47. That seems like a long time to have a lot of dudes on ice for no reason other than exploration, right?
Yeah, and it seems like overkill to show up with that many men and that much manpower,
Right.
I guess to advocate the devil, you don't know what you're going to find if these are uncharted territories. But I mean, like, if you're showing up with warships and shit, I mean, maybe you might have a little bit of an inkling,
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, there's always, like, even in our Nazi episode, and we've dabbled in it in the past, is Hitler escaped Nazi Germany, went to Chile, Antarctica, and then it has been told, right, that the Nazis believed that there were higher beings that lived underneath or in Antarctica. They said specifically in the translation, in Antarctica. Go ahead.
Before we get off Admiral Byrd, there was one thing that connects to what you're saying now that I wanted to mention, that his expeditions to the Antarctic region were sponsored because he wasn't always acting on behalf of the military. He was going on his own as an adventurer for some of these. He went to Antarctica many, many times. He had several expeditions starting in 1924 and including Operation High Jump in the 40s, some 22, 23 years later. His expeditions were sponsored by Henry Ford. Who does Henry Ford love?
Hitler.
Correct. Henry Ford was a big fan of them Nazis, if you recall, in the 1930s, before we went to war with Germany. Henry Ford was like, hey, I don't mind this Hitler guy. I think he's got some good ideas. And so I just want to say,
German engineering, dude.
We are starting to, I just want to put some dots on the board that we're going to connect as we do this discussion. Admiral Byrd took money from Henry Ford. Henry Ford was an admirer and supporter of the Nazis, and main Nazi guy happens to be Hitler. I'm saying there are some dots that we might connect potentially.
Yeah, so the Nazis went to Antarctica to dispute a claim with the Norwegians called New Swabia. New Schwabenland, as they called it, in Queen Land. Yeah, fuck you. My German is impeccable. Eat a dick.
I love Chris. Chris can't read English, but he's laughing at you trying to say German. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just say funny words to him, and he's just giggling because it sounds like gibberish.
So anyway, it was right before
New Schwabenland.
Right before World War II, right? The Nazis, not the German government, like the Nazis themselves,
right?
A separate entity from that took over the German government, explored this and disputed this area in Antarctica because
What is that?
Oh, God.
What does that mean?
What does that even mean?
Also, that person's name is New Schwabenland.
Somebody was pretty quick on the Fucking how fast somebody would like, oh, New Schwabenland. Oh, yeah. I have an alt that's already named New Schwabenland. Let me log into let me blow the dust off of this old YouTube alt account. It's called New Schwabenland. I made this thing 8 years ago just for tonight.
Oh, I love it.
Shit. Holy shit.
Fucking love it. This is why you guys should be a part of our live shows, because shit like this happens. And I'm sure we will mention some Jews.
Jesus Christ.
I guess per your request.
I just named a Jew. Jesus Christ.
He was Jewish.
So I put up on the screen for those of you watching the live stream. I put up a picture of a map of
New Swabia.
Yeah, and New Swabia is highlighted in red for those of you watching.
So Queen Maud Land was another territory, and the Nazis took it over, right?
Yeah.
So we had already discussed them going through the Weddell Sea and going right off of this Arctic ridge that is right at the bottom of South America, traveling and hiding. And the reason that the Nazis wanted to go was because they believed that higher entities lived underneath. Jesus Christ, dude, I don't know who you are, but you're my favorite person on the internet. Right?
Shit.
Yeah.
Bobby Light?
Shout out to the bass guy. It's gotta be
Bobby Light.
Damn, son. If it's not, even better.
That's the conspiracy of tonight. New Schwabenland.
Yeah. Hey,
that's
DM us. We're sending you a t-shirt. I don't care where you are.
I know. If you're in New Schwabenland, we're sending you a goddamn t-shirt.
Yeah. So the Nazis believed that there were higher entities that lived, what they said, in Antarctica or past that Arctic ridge, right? So that opens up a case not only on the Nazis being there and developing new technologies, and most of the technology they were interested in developing there were flying crafts, that space, like the saucers that we had discussed ad nauseum on other episodes. So basically, let me break it down in Chris Watsky layman's terms. The Nazis are going to Antarctica because they want to build UFOs and talk to reptiles. That's what it comes down to.
What I was going to say, what I had understood about that whole part of the story is that when Germany was going to lose World War II, it was imminent that they were going to lose. That the Nazis kind of cut ties with them and said, "Okay, you guys can lose, but we're not part of you. We're our separate entity, and we're going to go to the place where everything is happening." And we all know that everything is happening because we've already been there. We've already established our bases there. We already have our flying bells there and everything else. We're communicating with things. We're doing whatever the fuck we're doing there. And then they broke off and they went there. So official story Jones is that Germany lost, but the country lost, but the driving force behind everything.
Right. And that's why it was so important for me to make the distinction that the Nazi group, not Germany as a whole, they invaded Germany, took it over, and then left, and now have gone to, or, Himmler and all them, they ran and went through South America, right down Chile, and into Antarctica. Yes, Jason.
Well, let me just tack on this thought, because we often on this program especially speak about the powers above the powers. We all know the president's name. We all know what the queen looks like. I mean, we can identify certain people at the very top of the hierarchy, but we oftentimes speculate that there are people above them that you wouldn't be able to pick out of a lineup, that you've never heard their names, because
like a guy like Henry Ford.
They like to remain hidden. They don't want to be recognized, and they don't want to be known, and yet they pull the strings on some of the people that we would recognize as the most powerful. And that's for the United States, deep state. We would call them deep state in the United States, that we wouldn't recognize this guy, but for some reason he's able to pull the strings of Congress and the president and stuff. So what if the Nazi government wasn't much different? What if we know of Hitler and we know of some of the high-ranking Nazi members, but we don't know about the guys above Hitler? And maybe these are some of the guys who said, all right, Germany's going to lose, but we're going to get the fuck out of here, and we're going to go hang out in our base that we built a few years ago.
Those dudes that funded them are the Rothschilds. We know who they are. The Rothschilds funded both sides of the war. And now we're getting wildly into geopolitical money laundering and things of that nature. And I wanted to get into like intricate tunnel systems holding aliens and fucking
I
reptiles
think,
and shit.
you know, I think I want to as well. I think we got a ton of time. And I mean, I was contemplating today, like, what's the like the meat of the Antarctica thing? Because there seem to be a lot of stories about it. It's like
Mr. Cool Ice.
it's Mr. But that's the thing though. He's Mr. Cool Ice, and Antarctica is very cold and covered in a very thick sheet of ice. And Mr. Cool Ice is looking very thick these days.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
I don't either. I'm
just saying.
I think Mr. Cool Ice might be pulling some of the strings.
So Chris, Operation High Jump.
Yeah.
Was Bird there to find these intricate tunnel systems underneath Antarctica?
I mean, like, I guess,
or to get past the ice wall to find what David Weiss described as like the ethereal Earth or whatever, the second lands or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the extraterrestrial. It's like the territory beyond what we know about.
I kind of like that idea, even though that would subscribe me completely to flat Earth, and I'm not ready to do that. But I kind of like that idea that maybe it's bigger. The world is bigger than we actually know. You know what I mean? Like that Antarctica is just a ring. It's the outer. Like if you've ever played like a game like a Civilization on the PC back in the day, you know when you get to the bottom because it's just ice, and then you know when you get to the top because it's just fucking ice. You can go side to side like Pac-Man style and go go around, but you can't go up and down. And I wonder if shit like that is by design. Like almost like how I say, like, they put it in movies and shit, like how many fucking movies have been about this? Most recently King Kong, fucking Alien vs. Predator, goddamn Red Skull from Captain America in the MCU was based on the fucking Germans going to Antarctica to fucking find the goddamn Tesseract and the goddamn Skyrim, or not Skyrim's, what's the word, Adam? Stargate.
The Stargates. Skyrim is an RPG game that was released on the PlayStation 2 and has controlled my life ever since.
I was just saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the idea of there being some mystery here. I think that's what attracts me a lot to Antarctica as just a conspiracy related topic, is because it there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of potential for, like, is this thing an ice wall? You see those pictures of Antarctica and they're impressive. It's like ocean, and then there's just a fucking wall of ice that's just bigger than any ship next to it or whatever, and you just see this thing and it looks like a fucking wall of ice, and it's pretty incredible to see. So you wonder, after talking to somebody like David Weiss, who we talked about the Antarctic thing just being an ice wall to prevent people from going any further. I don't know how you construct such a thing, and like, why would you need to make it out of ice? Because that shit can melt. I mean, I just get there with my blow dryer and I'm on the other side of your wall now. What are you gonna fucking do? You should have electrified the thing and made it out of like barbed wire or something, and then I couldn't get across. But that's a topic for another day when we call David Weiss
real
back.
Quick. I mean, that kind of leads to is it like a Game of Thrones where there are other people living on the side of it that, you don't know about, and people are there to protect it? And, there's White Walkers or other entities that, are nefarious in some way. Like, to Chris's point, I mean, we know how that blood magic works, is that they got to show you their hand before they play it. Now they're going to show you their hand amongst 47 other hands, but like, getting people accustomed to the idea of Zeus is blowing my mind right now. I gotta turn the chat off. I got all excited about New Schwabenland.
Dude, New Schwabenland. Oh my god, that man.
Comedic timing.
Right?
Perfect timing. That man had a fucking whole YouTube account created to blow my fucking mind tonight. That man made a YouTube account 17 years ago to fucking make me shit my pants.
But to Chris's point, is that they're gonna show you, right, in blood magic, and then they're gonna distract you with other things. So it is entirely possible. And again, we don't know shit. Right? Like, the whole point of us being here is to ask questions and to start a conversation amongst our followers and our viewers and our listeners that, maybe will intrigue. And then someone will come along and then find like maps from Constantinople.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That
Someone will get brave and fly a drone over Antarctica, and then their entire family will be disappeared by the U.S. government.
Right. I mean, we can talk about like how it used to be a jungle and how there are pyramids under the ice somewhere. We can talk about like the maps that were found in 1513 that were painted on what is it, like gazelle hide. And
Maybe
they were perfectly preserved for like 416 years, however the fuck that happened. And those maps depicted Antarctica without the ice on it. So like, unless you have like a complex understanding of spherical trigonometry, there's no way that you can figure this out. I mean, unless you're flying around with fucking aliens, Chris. Look, every answer is aliens, right?
I think every answer comes down.
Every answer is aliens, obviously.
So option number one, hypothesis number one, is that beneath the sheets.
Can I see the whole map, sir?
I'm getting the other one is better.
Oh, Almy has it all jacked up and ready to go, and we can draw it and shit.
I did have it like already ready to go already.
And then there were videos of Mr. Cool Ice that happened before the episode.
And then we got into Mr. Cool Ice and shit got real. So here we have a map, as you mentioned, where what I'm showing everyone is a map of this part here that I'm drawing the outline around. This is Africa, right? This is Africa. This, I believe, is part of South America across the Atlantic. So this body of water on the other side here, or in between these two, this is the Atlantic Ocean, right? And then right down here, we have a very interesting feature of this map, because this here, and let's see if I can't just zoom in on this shiznit for you guys.
Lizards confirmed. Got it.
Lizard and all sort of mad Arabic text. So I think we can conclude that the reptilian aliens are the inhabitants of Antarctica, and that somehow the Arabs knew about this shit some 600 years ago. Boom, case closed. Who wants a beer?
That's what we do here. Episode over. Thanks, guys.
I mean, you're making it into a joke, and that's fine and everything. But I think your joke lies in a little bit of truth, possibly.
Yeah.
That you know, I'm getting really, really more open to the idea of that we're not the first civilization to rise and fall. You know what I mean?
Oh, hell no.
There were.
You mean in terms of humanity, or do you mean other people from other realms?
Two things can be true.
Okay. So it could be either or.
I think
both.
for both, yeah.
Okay.
And I think that potentially that might indicate that there were people there. They went there. They were in contact with people there. That could be why it's marked that way. It could be marked that way just because it was the 1500s. They didn't fucking know anything either. But I like to think that they might not have been as advanced by our standards, but they might have known some things that we still don't know.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, and I wasn't fucking around when I said this. Without knowledge of complex spherical trigonometry, Perry Reese of the Ottoman admiral, to whom the maps belonged.
This is 15th century, by the way, right?
1513, right? He painted this by hand on the hide of a gazelle, right? Maps weren't copied. Like, you couldn't like trace over or whatever. You had to hand draw it, right? So some of the maps are a little fucked up. But if you can pull the image back up without the drawing on it, you can see that there are islands that go up off of the bit with Antarctica on it, when there's little birds everywhere. And then he's got he's deleting all the
I'm just moving them. You asked me to move them.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Trying to do the thing where I
So if you zoom out just a little bit, and for the people listening, I'm sorry, you're more than welcome to. It's Perry Reese, PIRIREIS, if I'm not mistaken. Maps on, you could just DuckDuckGo that shit or whatever. But you see that in Africa, he's got elephants, he's got goats, and all types of other animals here in South America.
That would be indigenous to Africa, right? It makes
Correct.
sense that you would draw an elephant on top of the content of
Black
Africa.
kings and
right here,
and ostriches and things.
So here's the Black King that you would see at
LeBron James right there. Yeah, that's LeBron James.
Absolutely. Yeah. They've got an Arab dude right here. So, you know, he's Egyptian or some shit, and Egypt is in Africa and all that shit. So we've now fully represented the country of Africa with a Black king, an Egyptian king, and an elephant.
Right. And an ostrich. There's an ostrich in there somewhere on your giant mark. But if you go over to South America, you could see the same way. These aren't just for decorations. This is information, right? So when we get down, see, there are little birds on
here's
a little island. There's a monkey dancing with like a dragon person, which is weird enough. There's a humanoid sharing a banana.
I think this is about like human ancestors and other hominids, and this is like the ape that ate the mushroom. See, he's got the mushroom of truth right there. This is the stoned ape theory. This guy right here ate a DMT mushroom, and now he's like a human ancestor.
Dude, Perry Reese is the GOAT, apparently.
Yeah.
But back to the point is that down on Antarctica, he's got animals, right? So there's a serpent here. There's other there's a bipedal hominid. There's a couple of marsupials and things of that nature.
Scorpion? Is that a scorpion or some shit?
I hope it's a scorpion.
What is that?
I hope there's scorpions on Antarctica.
That's the point I was trying to make, and maybe I didn't do a good job of that, but that maybe it wasn't always covered in ice, and maybe that at one point that not only was it not covered in ice, but that there were people there that were inhabiting it, and maybe something happened.
Thriving civilization, right?
Maybe they were wiped out by somebody else. Maybe they were wiped out by natural phenomenon, because being at one of the points of the map, you're probably in harm's way more so than we are, where we're situated on the map.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about Antarctica, and if you look at the topography and things of that nature, there's thousands of volcanoes, and I know that sounds crazy that there are volcanoes underneath giant sheets of ice, but I'm not like blasting anyone's brain here by saying like a map of topography will show you mountains, and then they like the government, whoever they are, right, NASA, et cetera, in the official documents, right, they're like, yeah, there's definitely volcanoes here, like we know. There's running pools of fresh water underneath. There are fossilized seeds and fossilized like spores of mushroom and of tropical trees and things of that nature. So it wasn't always ice. Now, to Chris's point, were there people that lived there, and is that why they're pyramids? I don't know. But
well, and the pyramids too that you showed me, or potential pyramids, it's not even just the one. It looks like there's almost three, kind of like in Egypt and other areas of the world, that there's always, they come in three, and they're always lined up with the stars and things like that. It looks like the same exact situation. Right. And I know what I saw. People were trying to write it off as, well, that's just a mountain, and it's just erosion, and like the things like that happen in nature. And it's like, okay, but how can it happen just like that? I mean, like, I'll give you one side can do that, and it can look like maybe from this way, it could look like maybe the edge of a pyramid, but from aerial, I mean, from top down, all four sides look like that.
You have a good point, because I mean, it really does. You would think if one side was kind of wind blown or something like that. I mean, the corners, like, wind isn't going to blow against one side and then the other perfectly in such a way that it's going to leave this corner. I mean, you've got four corners of the thing, and I found those to be pretty incredible, like visually. I know that they've been debunked, and people have said, oh, it's just a mountain range that's covered, which is also cool. I love the idea that they have mountains and they're just covered with ice. It's how much ice they got. They're just covered with ice.
I mean, like I don't know if you guys could see my cursor, but
can,
like
yeah.
this one here, you have the main one here, and then off here you have this over here. So it's like that set of three, just like
In Egypt.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe even in South America, it's set up. The ones there,
Yeah.
the Mayan pyramids are set up in threes. Like it's all set to. I believe Orion's belt is the constellation that the stars are supposed to be aligned with. I could be wrong there, but it's a lot of coincidence. And I mean, I don't really buy into coincidence anymore.
So, I mean, I think the one thing that we've been kind of talking about here, and especially if we really consider like well pre 20th century history, we start considering like many thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even millions of years ago, we're talking about, yeah, look at that. I mean, that's pretty compelling right there.
If you guys open the private chat on StreamYard here, I have dropped a link to that thing that I sent you earlier about it if you wanted to pull that up as well. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step all over your amazing point.
No, I just think it's incredible that you have this potential, that there's all of this stuff, the things that we found in Egypt, the things that we found in South America. There's a potential that there's more shit under Antarctica, but we've got no idea because they don't fly over it. They don't let you fly over it. You can't just fly a drone out there and go look. And then B, it's covered in ice. So what can you do? I love that. But the thing that we're talking about here is ancient alien shit, right? We're talking about aliens coming here thousands of years ago, or maybe even tens of thousands of years ago, and experimenting on mankind, teaching us esoteric knowledge and technologies that are used to build pyramids and shit, align them with the stars, embed them with stargates so that we can go back and forth in a cultural exchange with these spacemen. And I love it. I'm here for that shit.
I agree with you. I was just waiting. I thought Chris was gonna jump all over that because that's like,
I know I said Stargate just for him.
I'm off screen on the other one. You got me doing too many things for my simple.
Oh, sorry. He was talking wild dirty to you just now.
Yeah. I mean, I dig the idea of aliens, because that's one of the things that I heard as I was researching Antarctica over the last several days. One of the things that I have heard that is contained within Antarctica beneath the sheet of ice, and how perfect is that too? We've got 1.9 kilometers of ice on average. That's the average coverage. It varies, of course, but the average coverage is 1.9 kilometers of ice. And how perfect is that? Whatever you've got going on underneath that, we don't know exactly what it is. We're going to speculate a lot tonight, but it's the perfect cover for that. There's almost 2 kilometers of ice. You can't see through that shit. You got no idea what's going on down there. And one of the speculative theories that I think I like is that it involves aliens, and that could go back. That doesn't have to be just the last 100 years, since Admiral Byrd started fucking around in there. I mean, think about it.
Like around 416 years when Piri Reis was drawing this map, unless he was above the fucking land.
Even before that.
Right. There is no way for him to fucking draw this map. There's just not.
If you're the Turkish Ottoman explorer, Piri Reis, and you're like floating around in your boat, you're going around and you're checking out South America and shit like that, and you're starting to see the islands in the coast of Antarctica, and you're like a spaceman, and you're like high on your space weed, and you're like, yo, look at that little motherfucker. I'm about to give him the fucking ride of his life. And you fucking beam him right up, and you're like, hey, man, you were checking this out. I'm going to give you a bird's eye view. Look down. And he's like, oh, shit. And he's like, he's like, hold on, let me get my goat hide. And he's like trying to fucking scribble that shit down real quick. Dude, I love the idea that aliens could be there. Aliens could have been there 400 years ago. They could have been there 4 million years ago. The fact of the matter is, Linda Moulton Howe is a famous journalist who records on all this kind of wacky shit that's out there. But she spoke to 2 Navy SEALs, U.S. Navy SEAls, who have been on recent expeditions. I mean, recent is in the last 30 or 40 years, expeditions to Antarctica. And there is, I mean, ever since the 1940s, I mean, when we took that bitch over from Nazis after Germany lost, when the U.S. took a greater stake in Antarctica, we've been sending boys over there. And so the Navy SEALs went over to visit, and she interviewed them afterward. And they were talking about they were talking about labyrinthine interiors. I mean, that stretched for hundreds, thousands of miles.
Systems. Yeah.
They were talking about rooftops that were some 80 or 100 feet high, and it's like antimatter. There was nothing holding that roof of ice up. There was nothing. There was no scaffolding. There was no arches. There were no buttresses. Nothing. And they're talking about technology that provided light, electricity, nothing, no wires, no plugs, no outlets, no wires. And yet they have this super technologically advanced interior underneath this ice that spans, like we said earlier, it's 1.5 times the United States. How many fucking aliens and Stargates can you fit in that bitch? And then they got a fucking door. I mean, if there's a Stargate under there and there's aliens that set that shit up millions of years ago, they can come and go at their will. You know what I mean? It's like, no problem. Let's go visit Earth.
Well, I mean, the evidence, yeah. Go ahead, Kurt.
You've come so far, Jason. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I also think the Tic Tacs and stuff that we talked about, like when we talked at Throwaway Alien a few weeks ago, I talked about some of the recent history of naval sightings and Air Force sightings of these Tic Tacs, and the Tic Tacs aren't coming down from the stars. The Tic Tacs are coming out of the ocean. But let's imagine for a moment. You're an alien race on the other side of the galaxy, very far away. You're probably going to travel via wormholes and stargates. Now, also imagine that you've got a lot of space on the bottom side of the Earth. You've got 1.5 times the size of the United States. We're not talking about a stargate like the one we see in the movie. That's about,
bro, you got a whole ass America down there.
You could fly entire ships through one stargate and emerge in another stargate that's actually underneath Antarctica, and now you can fly into our oceans. You can fly from the other side of the galaxy into our oceans without actually having to fly through outer space. And these Tic Tacs coming out of the ocean and then going back into the ocean, as reported by very reputable service members of the Navy and Air Force. They're witnessing stuff coming and going from motherfucking Antarctica.
Yeah, they could just be like exploration pods.
100%.
Now, hold on. A piece of evidence that I don't want to get lost, although wildly anecdotal, is the preservation of the Piri Reis map itself proves, I think, and at least points in the direction of otherworldly or alien type technology. A hide from a gazelle that was hand painted on in 1513 was found in Constantinople's library in 1920. Okay, that's 416 years for a map to be in fantastic preservation, right? It's preserved almost impeccably given its state originally. Obviously, he was rolling it up and traveling, etc., etc. It was found in the 1920s.
Yeah.
That technology. What'd you say?
What, just like chilling on a shelf? Like
it was just in Constantinople's library.
Yeah.
The wildly vast, and he had a lot of antiquities and leather-bound books, and he had a pretty impressive collection, as you guys know. I do too. So what's up? Come look at my painted maps.
Smells of rich mahogany.
I have many leather-bound books. But that preservation technology, that's not like normal, like shit.
So
like,
you're saying even the method of preserving it,
correct?
It's probably something that was given to him, that was new, that they didn't have at the time, because like animal skins would,
or he had something we didn't know, because again, unless he has complete understanding of complex spherical fucking what's like science, like map sciences, right? Trigonometry, the whole fucking what? I'm so fucking high right now, I forgot the word. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
No, but I mean, like these ancient libraries.
Yeah, it's trigonometry. If unless he knew, right? Fucking spherical trigonometry, of which maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Who fucking knows? I don't know the dude. But he wouldn't have been able to make that map to begin with. So there's got to be and obviously the answer is always aliens, Chris.
Always.
Christian, it's always aliens. But it would provide him to know about Antarctica and to see it from that angle, and to see it because it was covered in ice at his time.
Right? You're saying the answer is always aliens, and I appreciate that. But like, even just shifting like the way we interpret things, like maybe the answer is always aliens, but maybe they're not gray aliens from the stars. Maybe the aliens are just represented by past civilizations that are no longer here, i.e. Atlantis or Tartaria or fucking, one of these forgotten civilizations that, have risen and fallen. They're not necessarily aliens in a ship from another galaxy, but they may as well be to us. They're alien to us because they're no longer here anymore, and they're just, faded into legend.
Well, if you remember the episode we did with Bobby Light, he was going on and on about how Antarctica was Atlantis. It was I'm sunk and trapped underwater. Yeah. That water is frozen.
I'm right there with that. The only issue I have with that, because I love the idea, like I just painted this picture of this, aliens coming from the other side of the galaxy using stargates. But I mean, if we're going to go with such a fantastical explanation, it could also be Atlantis, it's sunk, and now they have fucking submarines that also fucking fly and are shaped like Tic Tacs. That could just as easily, it doesn't have to be gray aliens like Chris said. It could be a prior civilization. However, the motherfuckers that always wrote about Atlantis, the reason we know about Atlantis today is because it was Greek motherfuckers writing about it. So how does a Greek motherfucker know about anything that's south of Africa? I mean, I think Atlantis was supposed to have been positioned somewhere like in the Atlantic off the coast of Spain or in the Mediterranean possibly. But like in order for Greek motherfuckers to know about it, it's got to be somewhat close to Europe where like Greek motherfuckers could like get information back and forth.
Unless dudes like Julius Caesar had access to information to help them build their.
Oh, this would have been way before Caesar.
No, I know, but like whoever, Constantinople, fucking, Johnny Column, whoever the fuck.
When Constantinople was well after. I mean, in terms of the order of things.
Fucking Socrates, Jason.
Plato.
You know what he's saying.
Socrates, you know what I'm saying? The fucking George Soros is in them of the time, dude.
Yeah, well, Socrates came first. And Atlantis was supposed to be thousands of years before him, and then hundreds of years later, the Roman Empire with Julius Caesar in them, and then hundreds of years after that, Constantinople. In terms of our history, going back to like, minus 500 BC,
right,
to like 500 AD, it's about 1,000-year time span we're talking about here.
So the Mr. Cool Ice of the time had he had the library with all of the shit in it. And he told them about it, like, who fucking knows? I don't know shit, Jason. All I'm here to do is ask some fucking questions and geek out about some goddamn aliens with my fucking friends. All right. These are the creatures of the podcast. They're fucking Creatures of the Night podcast. God damn it.
I love it.
Of the podcast.
I'm high as shit.
Dude, it's hitting right now. I can
tell. So fucking high, dude. It's retarded.
Oh, it's amazing.
I know.
I'm so here for it.
Creatures of the podcast. Rah rah.
Creatures of the podcast.
Well, that's what the scene kind of playing along with that, where we say aliens and it may not necessarily be aliens to the classical explanation. The same thing with stargates, and this is something I've been thinking about too. Like when I say like 9/11 was about a stargate or fucking whatever, like it doesn't necessarily mean like the actual structure, like from the movie, like an actual thing in a building or something. But like on this planet, there are potentially areas where like the veil between maybe this realm and the next are a little bit thinner, or like the Stargate is actually just like a geographic location, and Antarctica might be one of those locations. I believe Stonehenge falls in that list. Fucking Iraq, Mount Shasta in California on the West Coast. There's a lot of these like these like places just where you know, like we were talking about with Bigfoot, how you could just maybe it's a lot easier
Like
to
an
just
ethereal gate.
yeah, you just slip through the veil a little bit, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
So
once
how
you
does that work mechanically? I mean, like, what are the mechanistics of that? Like, you sacrifice a chicken, you butt fuck a goat, you wait for the full moon, and then the portal opens up, or
I just think maybe being in the right place at the right time. Like you seen John Carter from Mars, right? Like he just
Nope.
went to that cave, and then all of a sudden, like he was fucking gone, man, because he was just in the spot where that shit happens.
so
Like,
it's kind of hard to control that though.
out.
Like, if you're some other civilization and you're trying to come here to observe us scientifically or to genetically modify us or even just to like grab some shit and then go because you want some of our resources or something, like you want this thing to have like a predictable mechanistic, like when I hit the button on my TV it turns on, not like I'm gonna sit here and wait for it to turn on, and if I'm in the right place at the right time I can watch some Netflix. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, shouldn't there be a mechanism where, at least if you understand it, obviously we don't, but if you're on the other end of this Stargate and you're maybe the person who sets up these ethereal sites, maybe you know like what to do. You can turn the dial and you could put your palm on the thing like Total Recall, because you can do the weird finger thing and boom, and then the thing turns on, but you want to be able to control it so you can go back and forth when you want to, right? So you can fuck with your humans and shit.
I think ideally, yeah, maybe like if it was being created by, you know, some intelligent force, or but maybe this might just be like one of those mysteries of the universe, dude. This just might be like where this happens. You know, it's a little, for whatever reason, the veil between this realm and the next is just a little bit thinner over here, and they figured it out. Maybe in Antarctica is one of those spots.
Well, I believe it actually probably started like that, right? Like, you know, you accidentally go to a good restaurant, you know, or you accidentally walk into a fucking Stargate, just so happens that you could be Bigfoot. But after time, after you utilize it enough, you start to understand the technology, and then potentially maybe a seance or blood magic, like some Aleister Crowley shit, or like even like Aztec technologies and things of that nature. Whole civilizations have just up and disappeared, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe through meditation practices or some sort of you know, a learning of a process over generations of time, like you said earlier, that millions and millions of years, bro. Like, they could, if you got 1,000,000 years in a fucking door, you're going to figure out how to use it the right way, right? And you're going to be like, okay, sit down, put this on your forehead, and say Allah, whatever the fuck, 90 times. And then we're going to shake a rattle, and then that shit's going to open, and then you're going to walk through, and then some dude's going to come back with bananas from the future. You know, like,
Yeah. Future bananas.
it could be, both things could be true.
So
Think of, oh, I'm sorry, Jason.
yeah, no worries. I was just going to say, you know, if we imagine these, like the way I imagine the Stargate that I kind of painted the picture of earlier, like there's almost like the movie where there's a Stargate and it leads somewhere, but there's a Stargate on the other end of where it leads, kind of like telephones. You know, if I call somebody on the phone, they kind of need to have a phone to pick up in order for us to have a phone conversation. And so there's a phone on my end, there's a phone on their end, and information is passing back and forth as we converse. But when you guys talk about like a more ethereal kind of mysteries of the universe Stargate, it makes me wonder, like, how does this barrier, this veil work? And if you were to pass through it, where does it take you? Do you emerge from one on another end? Do you travel time or space?
Again, I don't think that they're
Is it
mutually
dimensional?
exclusive, Jay. I think that if that were to happen, someone would learn how to utilize that energy properly, and then build some sort of Stargate or passageway or path
So
that they
what
can.
you're saying is
And then
like,
they would find out where they go on the other side and do the exact same thing. Like, yo, keep this bitch open. I'm coming back with bananas.
So
You know what I mean, like,
what Chris would usually say is both things can be true. So what if I can glean from this conversation something, maybe what's dawning on me now is that you have these like fundamental forces of the universe, right? We study them all the time: quantum mechanics, gravity, the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force. You have these fundamental physical laws that are provable time and time again, and then they build up into cool things like rockets and spaceships and shit, because as we understand them, we can build technologies based off of the principles. So if I can use that analogy to bridge over into what we're talking about, if we were to somehow, Atlantis or Tartaria or some ancient civilization was keyed into something that we're not today, or that at least we don't know about, maybe part of the government's keyed into it, but they were keyed into something, and they discovered this like fundamental kind of universal mystery, as Chris put it. Then they were to build technology around it. We could wind up with stargates, right? Like we could wind up with an actual, like a directed portal. Now we can build this thing that conjures this other thing, and you can travel either through space or through time or to another dimension where your name was Mr. Cool Ice.
Yeah, of course. And that's the dimension I live in right now. Thank you very much.
Hell yeah.
Maybe think of it like this, Jay. Maybe think of it more like Stranger Things than Stargate. Because like when they were figuring out how to go into the upside down and they were going to like rescue their friends and shit.
Yeah.
It like a fucking gateway to that other realm opened up in a tree.
Yeah. And if I recall, that was accidental. I mean, the rift between the other, or the upside down, and our world was an accidental rift. It wasn't something that someone specifically.
Well, no, it was the company, the nefarious entities were fucking around with energy weapons, and they ripped the hole or whatever.
But they didn't really mean to. They weren't like, hey, we're going to put a hole to another dimension in this tree.
Right. Well, no. And I think that, there was a center, and then the surrounding areas kind of became susceptible to the same shit because it was near that origin point. But I mean, like, there were no real rules to that. It was just they were kind of in the area. They found a spot. Oh shit! They flew in. They came back. It's kind of like you can blip back and forth a little easy if you're around that. With the area where the shit's happening.
I'm with that explanation of like maybe Antarctica being as large as it is. I mean, what's the problem in Stranger Things? You see that there's this town that lives right nearby, and all of these people can become witnesses and or victims to this weird scientific experimentation and creatures coming from the scientific experimentation. But if you're Antarctica, I mean, that's the beauty of Antarctica. And one of the reasons I love it as a conspiracy theory is that it's huge, and it's really fucking far from everybody else. So just point.
And even the parts that are close, are really far from the points that you want to fucking get to.
And there's no Storm Area 51. That could happen, right? Because Area 51 is not that far from other places where you could get water and food, and you could stay in a hotel. You can storm Area 51. You can't storm Antarctica. It is cut off by lots of water. And even if you were to get there somehow, it's fucking freezing. It's a desert. They get 8 inches of rain annually. So even though there's a fuck ton of ice, they get 0 fucking rain. It's all fucking sun. You'll bake in the sun. You'll freeze in the fucking snow. You cannot storm Antarctica. So it's a
get underneath that ice, and then you go in that intricate tunnel system underneath.
Well, yeah, the intricate tunnel system where
you keep saying intricate tunnel systems. I want you to expand on that a little bit. What makes it intricate?
Well, you ever see like a regular hole that, say, like a rabbit would dig? It's like, oh, that's a tunnel. Like you drive like on the, you're driving into New York, you're going to drive through a tunnel. So you ever see like an ant farm?
Ah, okay.
You know what I mean? An ant farm is an intricate tunnel system.
Yeah. Like tunnels going which way,
everywhere. Way. It's like a whole fucking city underneath the ground.
Yeah.
So Antarctica is essentially alien ant farm.
Wow.
Holy shit. You son of a bitch. How dare you?
Guys, thanks for listening to
you son of a bitch.
Podcast. Follow us on Creatures Night.
Follow the real Watsky is really what you need to do. Yeah. Follow at the real Watsky.
I don't know anything. I just have thoughts.
I don't even want to do the podcast anymore. I just want to end it on that. I think
honestly, if it doesn't end on that, that's fucking horrible.
It hurts my brain that it.
So, but it hurts my brain that you have dropped intricate tunnel systems numerous times, and you've yet to tell me about one reptilian tonight, Adam Simmons of the Simmons and More podcast.
Well,
what do we think? Do we think reptilians with Illuminati? I mean, how do they fit in with this like aliens and Stargate shit? Or Atlantans and Stargate shit. I mean, do we think that there's
that the Atlanteans are the reptilians? Yes.
okay?
Could they coexist or coalesce? Absolutely. Do I still think that the reptilians come from somewhere like the Marianas Trench? 100%.
That could be another one of those spots. That could be another one of those thin spots.
That could just be another one of the spots. That could be like a base where they keep all the little tic tacs and shit. What I know is that like the SEALs that were interviewed that Jason referenced earlier, and the things that I was reading about why the Nazis and other militia military groups wanted to go to Antarctica is because there are entities that live beyond Antarctica that we know, right? So 2 miles, 3 miles of ice down underneath that are lush, at one point was lush jungles, pyramids, things of that nature, right? I could only venture a guess that there's tunnels, they've tunneled through the ice, right? To get to what? Who knows? A Stargate, an access portal to another world. Maybe there's a whole nother Stargate, like Jay was saying, from Antarctica to the Marianas Trench or where have you, right? Some sort of interdimensional blipping mechanism, if you want to put it as
realistically, that could be where the whole idea behind a hollow earth theory comes from, because like it doesn't have to be the center of the planet. It could be under the ice, because that essentially be underground, a hollowed out portion of earth, like the same way with the Stargate. It doesn't have to be a structure to be the thing. This hollow earth doesn't have to be like we're talking about journey to the center of the earth, and of course there's a liquid hot magma core, and of course
liquid hot magma.
Like it doesn't have to necessarily be, all the way to that extreme. It could be just under the ice.
Yeah.
Right. Or it could be, what is it, Jay? 20 miles of crust?
Something like 20 miles across.
Okay, 20 miles.
Which ought to be the name of your pizza joint. When you finally open that. Fucking 20 miles across.
Damn.
Boom.
Damn. I already have a logo for it.
Fuck yeah.
The little pyramid with the eye, and it's a pizza shit. Yeah.
Absolutely. 20 miles across, baby.
But 20 miles seems about right. What's 20 miles from your house? You know what I mean? That seems like a pretty far way to go.
Yeah.
Think about this. If you're driving 60 miles an hour, it'll take you 20 minutes to get there, right? Seems like you could put a fuck ton of tunnels in between those points, right? Point A and point B. Right, you can build an entire civilization that could figure out how to utilize light or utilize spatial timing. So they, like you said earlier, Jay, they didn't have any plugs, or they didn't have any like beams or whatever.
I speculate that they were using Tesla's technology. That, remember, Tesla was rumored to have had a kind of like a Wi-Fi version of electricity, where he could power all of these electric devices without needing the direct current of electricity traveling up a cable plugged into the wall. We know about these, right? But
who was super interested in that was the Nazis, my dude. So
what I'm saying, though, is that I think whatever they got down there for electricity is using the same technology that Tesla was tuned into. And people say Tesla was an alien, that Tesla might have been one of them that just...
Venus. Your government documents leaked out fucking said that. He was from Venus, dude.
Yeah, there you go. So the Venusians are living under...
fucking CIA from their lips to your ears.
Hey, well, you know it. So I mean, do we think Nazis are alive in Antarctica right now? I mean, do we think there's like some Nazi contingent there living underneath?
I think that there are Nazis everywhere, realistically, because here's the thing: if you like Hitler and you believe in that shit, you're a Nazi. Right?
Okay, but I mean actual like
a group, like
Yeah. I don't mean like some
you don't
kid
just go out into the world and be a Nazi and not know other Nazis. Like, you're gonna have to have someone to back you up. You can't just be a sleeper cell dickhead. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you're gonna yourself. You're gonna.
And I think we've met plenty of sleeper cell dickheads in our days, dude.
Yeah, well, that's true. But someone willing to die for the Reich. I don't know. There's a difference between being a fucking weenie bag and being like a fucking Nazi. You know what I mean? So like,
no, I mean,
I'm sure
Nazis that
everywhere. But
escaped
what I'm saying
Germany.
is that I'm sure they're everywhere, and down that path, you are going to be like, oh, like I want to be a ninja. I'm gonna find Shredder so I could be a ninja for Shredder, right? So you're gonna go to the base. You're gonna find where you can find more people. Shut up, Chris. Shut up. It's a Ninja Turtles reference, God.
Fucking analogy. I want to be a ninja. Let me go find Shredder.
Bro, who's more not terrific than fucking Shredder? Okay.
I think Shredder was a member of like Imperial Japan. I think he was pretty pro-Nazi.
Yeah.
I remember my Ninja Turtles history properly.
Yeah. Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time, bitch.
Goddamn right. Goddamn right. I think
to a fucking portal, Chris.
I think that there were
point is that I'm sure that there's a base there, right?
Yeah.
Like they obviously have a spot of land. Krang was definitely a Nazi. They definitely have a spot of land that guy from YouTube told us about. And that's, I'm sure, where a base was. So if you're into that sort of thing, if you like wearing red armbands and brown coats and shit, you're going to try maybe go to a visit, like work your way around and see if you can get there and then become a foot soldier for the fucking Nazi party. So I think imagine,
I think that there are some people who claim to be Nazis today. I'm discounting them because they're disconnected from the historical Nazis of, I mean, I'm not discounting their
take it easy with that fucking gesture, bro.
But what I'm trying to say is that, they're not descended from the actual Nazi party that was running the German show in the 1930s and early 1940s. They're just guys who decided to pick it up these days because of hateful bigotry. But they're not like, hey, I'm Himmel's grandson or some shit like that, and I'm a Nazi because I was born into it.
Yeah, well, I think there's running the show, and those little foot soldiers are going to find them and grow the empire more, right? That's what I was kind of getting at.
Yeah, so I think what I'm getting at though is that post World War II, like today is a different story, but post World War II, I'm talking late 40s, I'm talking 1950s. Being a Nazi in much of the world was not a very popular thing, particularly areas controlled by the United States. You tended to keep that shit kind of close to the vest. If you were a Nazi in the 1950s or if you were gay in the 1950s, you tended to keep that shit a secret, right?
So if you were a Nazi in the 1950s, you worked for NASA.
Yeah, that, and they also kept it a secret. They're like, no, my name is John. I'm from the United States. They're like, their Operation Paperclip was some shit. So what I wanted, the main point that I want to get at is that post World War II, the Admiral Byrd trip to Antarctica, that was the Operation High Jump trip. One of the stated, and the Navy in fact stated this, one of the stated naval goals for that operation was to consolidate United States territorial control over Antarctica. Therefore, my thought is that there were Nazi bases there. We know that. New Schwabia or whatever was one of them, right? And so the United States needed to go to Antarctica to check out whatever the Nazis had built and try and take that shit over. So I don't know that I believe that Nazis are still there. I definitely think the Nazis were there, and they definitely tried to get into some wild shit while they were there. But if they're still there, it has to be under the auspices. I mean, they're being permitted to continue by the U.S. government because we own that bitch now. I mean, even if we're sharing it with 30 other countries or whatever, we own that bitch, right? I mean, which U.S. just goes in there, swings the dick around, and we get what we want, just like everywhere else.
That's crazy in and of itself too. Like it's a continent that's communally shared among, like you said, 30 different nations. Is that what it is? I thought it was.
It is. It's like
I thought it was just like a handful.
No, it started as a handful. It was like something like a dozen nations controlled it at first, but we're talking about 100 years ago. And since then, more nations have like bought in. It's like, I don't know, it's like buying stocks or something like that. Like more nations have decided to invest and come to do science. And we have typically had a very open door policy where, like, send your researchers, they can come join us on expeditions. But that's just like top of the ice shit. That's like they're just seeing what we want them to see. Like, come on over here and stay at this research.
Penguins.
We're not letting them inside. Yeah, go count the fucking penguins, Mr. Dude from fucking Sweden or Denmark or whatever. Go count some fucking penguins over there. You know what I mean? So we make it look like we're letting people in without letting people in, you know, because they don't know about the fortresses beneath the ice. But that's why I feel like the Nazis can't still be there today, because the U.S. would not have, I don't think we would have tolerated that in the 40s and 50s. I think we might have recruited some of the motherfuckers. Now, if you want to tell me that we went down there in the 1940s, we found the bases, we captured the last Nazis, we recruited all of their scientists and brought them in via Operation Paperclip, we threw the rest of the motherfuckers that weren't useless overboard, and we let them freeze in the ice, I'll buy that. That I'm gonna believe. But the idea
would you buy that the Rothschilds and the other people that are pulling the strings behind the big wars that funded both sides control that area, and they're like, yo, here's our Nazis. If you want to fucking get in on this, you got to be cool with it because we paid for your fucking tanks too. And they're like, okay, cool, let me lick your boots. Does that make a little more sense as well? Because
maybe in some way, I mean, I can certainly believe that there's a global elite that funded both sides. We know their family name. What I'm saying though is that I don't know that they'd be like, yo, I know you guys just got done with this protracted war where like millions of your boys died, but don't do anything to my men's over here. I think we would have folded them in. I think the reason why the global elite, they're like, let me play both sides because I don't know if Germany's going to win or the United States. And I want to be buddy, and I want the winner to owe me some money. So I'm just going to loan money to both of them, understanding that I'm going to lose money on the loser, but the winner is going to owe me a little bit. So I'm kind of the winner above the winner.
But do you think that an operation like this, like Operation Paperclip, or we'll call it Operation Antarctica, right? Yeah. Whatever is going on there is going to happen and get past the global elite? Or do you think that the moment that they find out that they're going to be like, hey, daddy's home, I'm here, I got the money, y'all motherfuckers want to go find some aliens because we can do it?
I think what happens is the global elite that's pulling all the strings on both sides is going to look at their outposts of New Schwabenland or whatever in Antarctica, and they're going to say, Germans and the Nazis lost. Sorry, we got to fold up this whole Nazi thing. But why don't you guys go hang out with, I'm going to call my mans in the CIA. I'm going to get y'all some visas to go work for the United States. We're going to hook you up with some citizenships. Maybe fudge the last name a little bit so you don't sound quite as Third Reich-ish. And then we'll just import the guys that have the fucking brains so we can beat the Soviets. I think that's what it turned into Cold War, and we got to beat the Soviets. So we can't let these fucking smart Germans hang out in fucking Antarctica long enough for the Soviets to get them. So we got to go get them. And that's exactly why we went down there in the 40s. We had to beat the Soviets down to Antarctica to claim whatever cool shit the Nazis had left for us.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Chris, do you have anything to say?
I was just thinking about that interview with Admiral Byrd and how he was a bad motherfucker.
Can you extrapolate on that just a little bit more? Because, like, I feel like we bulldozed the shit out of you with.
There was this one question that the guy asked him. He was like, "So, is it true that Antarctica is the last continent on Earth where there has like never been a woman that has set foot there?" And he didn't even miss a beat. He just looked over and he was like, "Yes, and that's why it's the most peaceful place on the planet." And I was like, "This is a bad motherfucker, dude. He's dropping." I came back and found all this extra shit, and I'm a little funny too.
And he's just Han Solo, bro. He's actually Han Solo.
You know what? If it wasn't so long, I would play it. I actually have that video pulled up. But I'll put a link in the show notes or something for people to check that out because it is interesting to the whole thing. It's like 12 minutes long, and then it is a little funny too.
Well, I mean, we won't be pulled off of YouTube or whatever if we play it, right?
I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, we can sign off of the episode, and then the last like 12 minutes or whatever the episode can be that interview, so people can have a better understanding of what's going on here because it's super interesting to me as well. And I think that the one guy that is like the guy of Antarctica does this interview not only does he say funny anecdotes about like women and peace and shit like that, but he elaborates on it being full of potential and having a lot of resources. That now resources is obviously a loose term, right? And unless you're thinking about everything that we've discussed in this episode here.
Well, he specifically said coal, oil, and potentially uranium. And
Right.
the guy even commented back. He was like, "Well, uranium would be the only one that would be cost effective to go after at this point, right? Because we're not going to send an expedition to fucking the barren wasteland of Antarctica for coal, right?" But I mean, like, you can't get on the evening news and be like, "Yeah, but there's also rifts in space time there too, and we can fucking travel the stars and go to the Pleiades."
Utilizing uranium to go talk to the Palladians at the bottom of the fucking ocean and shit. I
mean, do you want me to play it and we can Mystery Science 3000 it, or do you just want to be done with it?
It's your show, dude. You call it.
Call the ball, Ghost Rider.
That's you, Ghost Rider.
You, Jason.
Why? Hold on. When have I ever been known as Ghost Rider? That's a weird thing to call me.
When have you ever been known as Glock Ness Monster? Seems you keep calling yourself that. Can't give yourself a nickname. We gave you a nickname, dude.
Fucking Ghost Rider?
And it's Ghost Rider.
Oh, I play this shit. We'll Mystery Science 3000 this shit. I'm gonna have commentary after this anyway, so we can't like sign off and then I can't comment on this video.
That's why I said that, because I figured you'd have words.
I always do.
It's time for the Longines Chronoscope, a television journal of the important issues of the hour, brought to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. A presentation of the Longines Whitnor Watch Company, maker of Longines, the world's most honored watch, and Whitnor,
no free
distinguished companion to the world-honored Longines.
Right.
Good evening. This is Frank Knight. May I introduce our co-editors for this edition of the Longines Chronoscope? Larry Lasser, CBS News correspondent, and Kenneth Crawford, National Affairs Editor of Newsweek magazine.
He's on the
Our very distinguished guest for this evening is Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
The North Pole used to be a no man's land, but these are the days when, by buying a ticket on a commercial airliner, you can fly across the North Pole and drink a cocktail.
Hold on, stop that.
Only 3 score or more years
You
ago.
just said that you can fly over Antarctica. You're not allowed to do that anymore.
False. Yeah.
I was going to say, that's what a lot of people have said, and I'm guilty of saying that myself too. But I read tonight that there's no real like record of that anywhere. Like, a lot of people say, "Oh, you can't fly over Antarctica," but there's nothing really that says that. I guess you would have to try firsthand and deal with the armed guards or whatever. Like maybe they don't publicize it that you can't do it. That there's maybe no flyover, but it's probably enforced, right?
Heard.
About 35 years ago, our guest tonight found out whether there was any land north of the North American continent. He made that first discovery flight, and I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Well, Admiral, do you hope to see that?
I do.
Well, Admiral,
Yeah.
would you say that since you've been to both the extremities of Earth, are these expeditions to such far-off places, are they getting easier because of modern techniques, or is danger still close at hand?
Well, it's a little risky, but nothing like it used to be with the old
product
slow
placement.
planes and the small cruising
know,
ships
right?
where we had to put down bases. We replaced the dog teams. And of course, that was
I'm going to put a
big
big
improvement.
on it plaque right behind me.
But now the planes go much faster and they are safer and they have a much bigger cruising radius. You haven't got the danger of a terribly heavy load.
Admiral,
Oh.
an
I
expedition.
have the danger of a terribly heavy load every day.
Now, interrupt. What is
I'm sorry. I saw your eyes get about as big as fucking dinner plates, Adam, when he said the danger of an incredibly heavy load, and you could not get your shit off fast enough. So,
No, sir.
that expedition doing?
You know me well.
Well, that's the icebreaker Atka. And it's a reconnaissance expedition. It's going down to the South Pole area to make certain observations and to look for some bases. They will be back in April, and they will report back. And upon the information we get from that undertaking, we will base the bigger expedition that's to follow.
Is that very definitely planned, or is that?
That is being planned right now. So I'm willing to say to you that there will be a number of expeditions that will follow, I think, year after year, at the bottom of the world, because the government has really become interested.
Well, Admiral Byrd, I can understand. I think everybody can the interest in the North Pole because it's so near our greatest challenger, Soviet Russia. But why this interest in the bottom of the world? Nobody living down there, is there?
No, it's pretty cold. There's only one permanent resident. That's the emperor penguin. The little ones live further north. I tell you one reason they're interested. It's by far the most valuable, important place left in the world for science. That's why the scientific groups all over the nation are really interested. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, those to come after us, or even during your lifetime.
Here's my question. Is that an Encyclopedia Britannica behind him, or do you think that those books are real?
Natural resources.
Absolutely fake books. Those are paper
Now,
mache.
as the world
those are prop
shrinks with
books.
an ever-increasing acceleration, far-flung places once useless, like we thought the North Pole was, and no man's land, become very useful. The bottom of the world will be important, not only to us, but
The
to our
bottom.
allies.
Does it? I was going to ask you. Does it have military importance?
It has some, and as the world shrinks, it will continue to shrink with an ever-increasing acceleration, thus bringing these places closer. And in the future, I can see a time when it will be very, very important strategically.
Well, has the development of air power increased the strategic importance of places like the
Oh, very much so.
Parma Peninsula? Was it?
Very much so. Even now,
This is like the
if
shittiest
anything
podcast
happened
ever.
and we lost the Panama Canal, we would have to control the islands just north of Antarctica, which are part of Antarctica,
Whose idea
and
was it?
between there and Cape Horn.
I've heard it said that there are 7 continents in the world, and one of them has never been seen by a woman, and that's Antarctica. Is that actually true?
Well, if the Parma Peninsula is an island, as far as I know, that's true. No woman's ever stepped foot upon the Antarctic continent, and it's the most peaceful place in the world.
Well, I'm sure that won't last very long. I understand that now that you're working with
My man Eyebrows thought that was real funny.
Now, is there any future foods down these?
he had a really good point there too, and I think it's crazy that he dropped this in the 40s about how the world is shrinking and how it's going to be strategic. Because if the things that we're saying are true and the things we're speculating on are true, I mean he's fucking dead on, dude. He's dead on 80 years in advance.
Hmm.
We don't have to continue on with that if you guys don't want to or whatever. We're only about halfway through it, and it's a lot more of that type of rhetoric. So you
Got to hear his misogyny, though. I like that.
well, that was the whole point.
Fucking bitches.
It's the whole point of this episode.
That was the
Jay, can you do me a huge favor?
Absolutely.
Can you just pull up a picture of Mr. Cool Ice?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've been waiting for this moment. I have been waiting for this moment for
So
my
you read, I think you wrote Mr. Cool Ice's Wikipedia page. We talked a lot about melting ice and sheets of ice and things of that nature, and none of it is as cold. None
yeah.
of it is as cool as Mr. Cool Ice.
Is he the emperor of Antarctica?
Yes.
Yeah, he is. He
Not
is.
to put too fine a point on it, but yes.
He is the emperor of all penguins. Maybe you've heard of him. Shaggy wrote a song about him. They call him Mr. Sex and Mr. Lover Lover. This is Mr. Cool Ice, and he's the fucking coolest. Look at those sunglasses on the back of his head.
Man got sunglasses tattooed on the back of his fucking head. I'm going to show you guys a picture of the front of this. I almost said R word.
You can't not when you're being recorded.
Only when the plunge is on the phone. They're not going to hear that, so don't worry. Let me bump up Mr. Cool Ice here. And there's the front side of Mr. Cool Ice, guys. That is what Mr. Cool Ice looks like from the front.
That was for sure his MySpace profile picture in 2005.
It was for sure my MySpace profile picture in 2005, as a matter of fact.
That is for sure my Twitter handle photo tomorrow. That's it.
Okay, so can we just like appreciate that? Here, bring that back because we're gonna break it down.
Well, damn it. All right.
Ice. Well, I want to do the old versus the new Mr. Cool Ice.
Oh, you want to do the old versus the new? Let me find an old versus new
So
photo here for us.
Mr. Cool Ice. The word ice is capitalized, but Mr. Cool is properly capitalized.
Zeus is just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So Mr. Cool Ice now.
You completely jerked the wheel, so I think, yeah, of course he's like, what the fuck?
He added more skulls, right? He added like you ever have an icy, like a Slurpee or whatever? He added the same sort of font effects to the Mr. Cool Ice part of his chest. Yeah, he's got ice on his neck now. Because obviously he does, also capitalized. He's got that Lance Storm haircut. He looks like he's from Alberta, Canada. And he's got 2 eyebrow piercings and 2 nipple rings. But somehow the most intriguing part about the photo of new Mr. Cool Ice is that he's wearing sweatpants with cargo pockets that are white.
Fucking white cargo sweatpants.
That is straight up Nazi shit.
That fucking son of a bitch. If that high and tight haircut didn't scream fucking Nazi.
So what's the information about him personally or whatever? You said why he legally changed his name to Mr. Cool Ice earlier.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find that again because I didn't keep it up.
Could this become a Mr. Cool Ice appreciation show?
We definitely need to do
Mr.
Cool Ice. Yeah, we need to do a Mr. Cool Ice appreciation.
I feel like I'm part of it right now. What do you mean?
I mean, we're gonna do a whole hour on it.
So
he has been known to give out business cards that include his given name, which is Thomas Steinberger, definitely German, and his 3 pseudonyms, Mr. Cool Ice, Mr. Lover Lover, and Mr. Sex.
And he is I'm just curious. He is the leader of Antarctica, though. This is why he's relevant to this right now.
He's the emperor, not just the leader.
I'm sorry, the emperor. Okay.
Yeah. Where is the most ice ever? Antarctica. Who is the most ice ever? Mr. Cool Ice.
Yep. Old Mr. Cool Ice.
Got it.
Is he a disciple or a disciple of vanilla?
Yeah, he is a fan of Vanilla Ice. So he did say that like cool here. Let me find the translation of his German.
He said that Mr. Cool was always a cool name to him, so he wanted to be Mr. Cool, and then he was a fan of Vanilla Ice, so that he added ice to it because he thought that was even cooler than Mr. Cool.
Yeah, because like how does it get
cool ice?
Yeah, so
how can you be cooler than Mr. Cool? Mr. Cool Ice.
I mean, that checks out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, Mr. Cool Ice loves public appearances, apparently.
I mean, how do you not? You've done that much stuff to your body.
Yeah.
You look like more skulls tattooed on you than a fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin t-shirt.
Yeah. I made up the name myself, so it's mine. Patent registered on me. I basically started here by myself. Frank wasn't there. Designed the skull. So he did the design himself, which I can hardly believe. He did the he designed. He was the man who came up with the idea to tattoo sunglasses on the back of his own head. It's crazy.
It's crazy that someone else didn't have that idea first.
Yeah, I'm really kind of upset it wasn't me.
I know, he's so cool.
I know. He's cool ice. He's fucking 1.9 kilometers deep of fucking ice. That's how cool he is.
Yeah. Also, if you call yourself Mr. Sex and you have sunglasses tattooed on the back of your head, you fuck. That's just what it comes down to.
He's got mirrors above his bed. We saw that shit. He fucked.
Yeah, he does. And a lot of sex lighting. Chris, where can people find you on the internet?
At mrcoolice.net.
The Real What's Gay on all social media platforms and myspace.com/Mr. Cool Ice.
100%.
We out here.
Jay, where can they find you?
At Jason Almy on Twitter, motherfuckers. Hit me up. You can fucking find me on Patreon too, /Team Almy. Patreon.com/Team Almy. Come listen to Shit Happens When You Party Naked, cocksuckers.
And I am Earth_2_Adam. Yes, he is absolutely a descendant of Hitler. Thank you, too.
Baby.
I am Earth_2_Adam on all social media platforms. Guys, thank you so much for listening to me get incredibly high and banter about ice and then Mr. Cool Ice.
On.com, hempbombs.com. Use code creature.
We fucking love you. You guys, big kiss. Peace the fuck out.
Follow us on Instagram, Night Creatures Pod, Twitter, Night Creatures. Go to
MySpace.com/Mr. Cool Ice.
all of them, all the .coms.
I'm giving you a night call to tell you how I feel.
Here's the real question. Is there a Mr. Hot Fire
Yeah.
that's going to fight him?
Yeah, me, motherfucker.